I would say that if we have another circus, as we had yesterday and the day before and in the previous days, that circus is going to require a security. When we arrived at the Mississippi line, I believe it was Tuesday, and it's hard to keep one day from the next, and I had a message from Mr. Floyd Mann that the other bus had left safely and without incident. It was my recommendation, or was going to be my recommendation to the governor that evening, that martial rule in this county be dissolved and our people go home, get a good night's sleep and a clean bath. But how are we going to dissolve it if these provocations continue, despite the plea made by the Attorney General to slow up?
The situation here is well in hand, and if the outside agitators who came here and deliberately stirred up this controversy would go home, and the marshals go home, it would be best for everybody, and the situation would return to normal very quickly. These incidents in Alabama were caused by outsiders who came to this state seeking trouble. They were not invited. They were not here on any legitimate business. They were not here as visitors or tourists. They were not traveling through the state. They came here, bought tickets from town to town, and did everything that they possibly could to create incidents and breaches of the peace in each place that they stopped.
I suppose then by having the library of his alma mater named for him. About a year ago, I received a program of the exercises in which the beautiful new library of Colorado State University was named for my good friend Bill Morgan, the very able president of that university. And across the program, Bill had scrawled a little note saying, quote, "Ralph, don't ever let this happen to you. It's a shattering emotional experience."
By virtue of the authority vested in me as governor of the state of Alabama and chairman of the Board of Trustees of Auburn University, I now have the honor and privilege of installing you, Harry Melvin Philpott, as president of Auburn University. You have been selected for this position by the Board of Trustees, who are well aware of their obligation to work unstintingly to see that this university will continue in its greatness, to be a place of light, of liberty, and of learning. To that end, we pledge our support and the support of a host of others who believe in this institution. This medallion, emblematic of the office of president, embodies the zeal of the university and includes an inscription appropriate to the lamp of learning, which is a part of the seal. The inscription is "Truth flourishes where the student's lamp has shone." I charge you, President Philpott, as Chief Executive of Auburn University, to keep that lamp shining.
state is on the move forward, and this institution has a great contribution to make to the progress of the state. Blessed with excellent natural resources, inhabited by people of vision and determination, Alabama faces the future with optimism and with confidence. We have not arrived, for our aspirations are much higher than our achievements, but it should be known to all that Alabama is on the move. Within such an environment, it is inevitable that Auburn University, as a land-grant college and state university, should stand on the threshold of its greatest progress and achievement. It is fitting at a time such as this to honor the contributions of this university throughout its illustrious history. Over 45,000 graduates have gone forth to serve the state, the nation, and the world. The growth of agriculture, assisted by the teaching, research, and extension programs of Auburn University, has developed to the place where we can predict in the next few years an annual income of more than $1 billion from farm production. Industry, both from outside the state of Alabama and developing within the state, has invested $1.4 billion in new facilities since 1963. Not all of our progress has been of a material character, however. Grave social problems are being attacked and human relations improved. The quality of our educational program has more than kept pace with other advances.
We've got a long way to go. We have not yet welded together in a common purpose the 53 colleges in Georgia. They're expensive. They are quite often inefficient, and the lack of communication and coordination in their programs is important and costly. And the legislature has already approved by a unanimous vote $4.3 million for this purpose. We'll take in freshmen, sophomores, and juniors next year. And we believe that we are inheriting great benefits. At the same time, we are not encroaching on the barrier that exists between church and state. The private colleges are completely independent. There was a time, 8, 10, 12, even 6 years ago, when higher education was living through what I call a golden age. Higher education could do no wrong. Anytime a request was made to the governor, the legislature, an utmost effort was made to answer those requests. There was very little close public scrutiny of the way public funds were spent or the efficiency of delivering a certain quantity of or quality of education beyond the high school level. Those days are gone, and they ought to be gone, because we now have a situation where governments at the state level are much more efficient, much more effective, much more inquisitive, much more addicted to long-range planning, and where the spending of a dollar is a much more carefully observed occurrence. I think you all know that governors, legislatures, national party organizations, Congress, and others will have some final judgment about how this can be done. But if we have 37 different and separate scheduled primaries, most of us will not see a major candidate enter our states in person or through media campaigns to present his own ideas to our people, not to receive advice from the people of our state on how he should act after he becomes president or presidential nominee. This is an exploratory proposal. You might want to read it over at your leisure, and I think in February, when we meet again at the National Governors Conference level, and then subsequent to that, we might discuss some practical applications of it. I believe it's important to point out that we in the South can take a leadership role in shaping the political structure and attitudes of our nation. It's very difficult for me to be nonpartisan, but this morning I made a quick survey of the Republicans on my right, and I think it's an interesting thing that without any concerted effort, leadership roles in the National Democratic and Republican Party in the last couple of years have been channeled remarkably, almost exclusively, toward the southern or southeastern states represented here.
And the attitude of the people in Marquette, Michigan, and throughout that region of our country seemed to have been the attitude of the average citizen in Alabama and the other places here. So I'm glad to know that the leadership of both parties and the politicians of the country have finally discovered this great part of the United States and found that in the long run we have always been as much in the mainstream as any region of the country.
Thank you, Governor.
Over the 2-year period, Alabama will lose approximately $168 million below what we anticipated receiving for this particular state over a 2-year period, a devastating blow. you can look at the figures for your own states and make a judgment on what we can do in the future to correct this problem.
Morning session.
Governor Albert Brewer came to Birmingham this morning to address the commencement exercises of Sanford University. The governor joined with university officials in the opening procession.
Ladies and gentlemen, the governor of the state of Alabama, the Honorable Albert P. Brewer, who will bring our commencement address. Now join me in welcoming our governor to this rostrum.
The great challenge of our day is whether we're willing to bear the burdens of our times, whether we're willing to refuse an atmosphere of easy complacency, to have the courage to defend our convictions, to be concerned and involved in the great issues of our day, and to have faith in divine guidance in the building of our great tomorrow. We shall meet the problems we face, and we shall solve them, and we shall complete our journey here with a clear conscience. The night will sometimes be long, the winter cold, our task difficult, the temptation to quit strong. But as Robert Frost said in his immortal poem, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
some 96 years ago that the engineers made their first study of the Coosa River. And 91 years ago, they made their first study of the Alabama River. And through the years, there has been the constant struggle to bring about the comprehensive development of the Coosa-Alabama River system. By 1969, or certainly not later than 1970, this development will be fully, completely done. We'll see these boats. We'll see these boats moving up and down our river. We'll be bringing in new and greater and mightier industry into Alabama, with all that means in employment and payrolls and jobs for our people and the growth and strength and prosperity of Alabama's economy.
We hope to have the locks in the two dams already under construction, Miller's Ferry and Claiborne, as well as the necessary dredging in the lower reaches of the Alabama, completed in time to open the river for navigation to Selma in 1968. Now, more time will be required to complete other features of these dams. But according to our present schedule, the lock here at Jones Bluff will be open to navigation in 1970, thus completing the 9-foot barge channel to Montgomery. Now, your senior senator said something about 1969, and I'll defer to his judgment because he knows more about these things than I do. And this dam is going to create a fine scenic lake extending some 82 miles upstream. The people of this area and many thousands of people from other areas can enjoy outings either on or near the water. The Claiborne Dam will have no power installation, but Miller's Ferry will have a plant which will produce enough power for 88,000 families. And the Miller's Ferry Dam will also have a beautiful lake, which will extend upstream about 105 miles. This is one of the most rapidly expanding regions of the nation. One of the main reasons is its wealth in water resources. But the supply is not inexhaustible. Water can be conserved, transported from place to place, and reused, but the overall quantity cannot be increased. If the phenomenal growth of this region is to be supported, the water must be conserved, and its uses must be carefully planned and coordinated.
Alabama, with all of its abundance of water, its navigable streams, more navigable streams than any other state in our nation, with all of its tremendous resources on top of the ground and underneath the ground, with the great capacity of our people for hard work and their strong desire for good education, I say to you, let us unite in working together with the rest of the people of our country, make this the leader of the world and maintain that leadership not only for the present, but for centuries to come. Today we see this coming true. We see these fine schools, more than $200 million provided by our legislature in the last 6 years for new buildings and new facilities. We see more than 100% increase in the last 4 years in our educational appropriation to get good teachers and to maintain the teachers that we now have, to give our boys and girls an education that will let them to compete with the graduates of any college or university in the world. We're building our highways, we're developing our streams, building our locks and dams, building fine health facilities. We're on the move for great things. The business of America is unfinished, and you and I must keep ourselves committed to that great purpose and to that great principle. For whether we like it or not, We're involved in a race with the most damnable foe that history has ever known. And in that race, there are not going to be any prizes for second place.
That's fine, Bob.
You all ready?
Fire in the hole!
People were killed and almost 50 people were injured when the twister struck this town last night. The nightmare for this town of about 2,500 took place at 7:25 Sunday night. In minutes, the town of Brent was almost erased.
Here disaster person of the Summer Baptist Church who will not tolerate looting. Looters will be prosecuted.
Did you?
We had just gone in the auditorium from our training union classes, and our interim pastor that was serving us now told us, he came up in the auditorium and told us that there was an awful roaring outside and he believed it would be bad and said for us to get to the basement at once. And of course everybody rushed, and most everybody got there. One or two was hit on the way down. But we hope nobody's serious.
I understand that Mr. Mitchell was killed. Can you tell me the circumstances surrounding this?
Yes, sir. He didn't ever get out of the auditorium. He was killed inside of the auditorium. And of course it was just demolished. And one lady had started down the stairs and she got to the top and she was injured. They've carried her to the hospital, and I don't know.
Now, when you left the main building and went to the auditorium, what did you and your family do yourselves?
Well, my children was, come on, Mother, hurry, Mother, and hurry, Daddy. That's what they were telling us, and we rushed as fast as we could, and by the time we got there, glass was flying everywhere, and of course, we didn't get hit. We were all lucky. We didn't any of us get injured, any of the family. It was really rough, I'll tell you. I don't guess I know hardly what all did happen.
there was a lot of roar. It was a lot of roar, and I saw what was happening. And I was almost out in the street. I was coming out alley by the City Hall. So I taken and backed up about 10 feet. And my back glass it pulled it out, and then it began to pull the side glasses out, and there was something, I don't know what it was, hit the car. And as quick as I could, I didn't have any use of myself. Didn't seem like it was kind of like I was an astronaut or something or other, but I got down in the floorboard and held the brake with my foot, but it still picked the car up and set it back about 20 yards, I guess, and set it back up the hill.
They're going to be on channel 12.
Well, yeah, they're out of money. It's just that simple. They are accepting these applications and processing them, but so far as they know, they don't know whether they're going to have money the first of the year or not. It's not in the budget. The budget's being, the program's all being phased out, so many of them.
Have there been any private enterprises coming to the relief of Brent at all?
Well, a lot of them come making offers, but nothing concrete yet.
What will it take to solve the problem that you have that exists?
Well, actually, it'll take restoring our businesses, which were 90 to 95% wiped out, and of course homes, I don't know how many, but so far as so far as business is concerned, it just take a new city, a new business district. That's what it means.
Well, you're looking very well and fine, much better than the last time.
Senator, did you ask the governor to support George McGovern?
George Wallace, there you go. Governor, we ought to let I just talked very briefly about the national campaign. He will speak for himself and his own, express his position on that, and you'll have an opportunity to talk to him, I'm sure.
Governor Wallace happened to be the presidential candidate in 1976 of the Democratic Party. Would you run on the ticket with him?
Well, that's we've got a nominee at the present time. I'm supporting the nominee. I hope he'll be elected, and we'll have an opportunity to support him for re-election.
Senator Kennedy, what persuaded you to come to office at this particular time?
The invitation by the student body. It's been long-standing and continuous, and I've welcomed the opportunity to be here. I want to talk about some of the things that are concerned to me on the national scene, and I think are of interest to the people of Alabama. The Founding Fathers wanted the testing of different ideas every 4 years in national elections, and now is the time where these ideas are being tested. I believe the young people here in Alabama are as interested as the young people of Massachusetts. They've indicated some interest in my views. I plan to talk about them.
Senator, how important do you think Governor Wallace's endorsement or non-endorsement will be to the president?
The governor has one myriad of supporters in his campaigns throughout the North, in my own state of Massachusetts, and he has those that look to him for leadership, and his support would be meaningful to any national ticket. Okay, thank you very, very much.
Much of anything because of the very limited time, but I think the senator for coming to see
sound off. That's difficult. I think
I was in Washington for the Cherry Blossom Festival, and I represented Alabama.
Good shows over there. It's a big deal.
nothing worth repeating, I don't believe. We may have touched the subject briefly in passing, but the focus was mainly social.
Can you give us the gist of the conversation at all?
Well, I think it's a private visit. I'd prefer to keep it that way, and I'm sure the governor would.
Thank you. Thank you.
You might decide to support one of the candidates publicly, but I'm not sure about that. Frankly, I'm spending most of my time recuperating and attending to the affairs of my own state. So I've been in national politics for a pretty good while, so I'm going to rest a little while from that.
So your neutrality is for today and the immediate future, but not necessarily permanent?
Well, no one can tell what the future holds.
Today's stop in Alabama by Mr. Agnew could be considered a crucial one, not so much as far as the vice president is concerned, but rather in a measure of strength as it affects local Republican candidates. It could also prove another thing. Can Mr. Agnew be as influential in Alabama this election year as Governor Wallace has been swaying the electorate? George Mitchell, WSFA TV News at the Governor's Mansion in Montgomery.
As some of you know, over in Plains, early Wednesday morning, about 2:15, I got a call from Governor Wallace, and pledged his support to me then and said that he would do all he could to induce the delegates who were committed to him to support me. And I told him that I'd be over here before the end of this week to thank him personally, and I'm very grateful to him for having done that. And following his public endorsement, we very quickly got the endorsement of several others who have many delegates looking to them for leadership. We are contacting every delegate individually. Governor Wallace is helping us, those who look to him for leadership, and others are doing the same. We've now gone past
I would say 1,650 delegates who pledged to us, and we're only counting those who give us their personal commitment. Talking for a while about the Taliban special support to me. Run a very good campaign, as you know, and the opponent for anyone is
Sit down. Watch Mike, George.
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead. Governor Wallace, what kind of things do you expect? Concerned about specific issues?
Governor Wallace gets the nomination, the Democratic Party has a Republican opponent. So any race he chooses, when asked about the proposition that if Governor Wallace is the nominee of the party, would I support him? So I would support him against the Republican, but I would not get involved in the Democratic primary. Passage of the Civil Rights Act and the removal of the race question consciousness. Those two things, I think, will make the fight.
Governor Carter, is this a change in the guard from the old South to the new South?
Well, I wouldn't categorize that. You know, I understand something about although tax reform, welfare, Governor Wallace broke out the option show. I have already met with the scoop shop. This week, I'm going to be proposed to be on Monday. We don't have precedent for what I did. I want to emphasize the fact that I can get the professor I think on the short, immediate spectrum combination.
With great pride, we recognize your host, just let me say this one thing, and I say it in a very personal sense. I thank you for coming out in such great to welcome me and the other guests on this occasion. Thank you for reminding all of America we're part of Dixie.